don't be silly. The person who's better than Evan Longoria as the greatest Ray ever will have to be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because Longo got close to getting to that point. I think a couple more solid years. And
you are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We have got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
And I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs or Carl Crawford,
we are here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 6th season covering the Rays daily.
And every season they've gone to the playoffs, hopefully again in 2024. So grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
And this episode of Locked On Rays is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today.
All right, a lot to discuss on this Monday episode as we lead into the All-Star break. Congrats to the Rays for finishing 500 before the All-Star break and taking 2 of 3 from a very good Guardians team. But maybe some off-the-field news that we will get to. Notably, Evan Longoria making his return for the Trop in what seems like an eternity. Jason Adam perhaps snubbed from the All-Star game. And there's beef afoot. Beef between Marc Topkin and Pete Fairbanks. We'll get to all that. I guess, Ulises, should we go ahead and lead off with the man of the hour, the man for a decade in a Rays uniform, Evan Longoria, looking pretty snazzy in that City Connect jersey of his.
Man, that was awesome. That was really, really cool. I mean, the whole Rays organization, very, very good of them to have this opportunity. The fact that he was able to sign for fans, the first pitch, the introduction with Down and Out, Tantric, who I think if you're just even a casual Rays baseball fan, you remember that song playing multiple times for multiple years, for a decade. So that was a really neat add-on on the whole first pitches to have that on the background for music for when he walked up. I think it was fantastic. The City Connect jersey, I thought that was a great little tie-in from somebody from the past to what the Rays are today. Tremendous. The only thing I'm kind of not upset, but I think I would have liked it more.
Hang on, let me guess. That the Rays on that day would have announced that he had been signed to a 1-year contract so they could insert him into the order and see if he could do better than some of the other folks that are on the roster.
Well, you know, if this was a movie, 100% that would have been great. No, I mean, like, I really would have liked someone else other than Kevin Cash to catch his first pitch. And by the way, before I say why, I understand why it was Kevin Cash. It was his manager for a long time. I get that they have an actual relationship. They know each other very well. I get it. And Kevin Cash never does it. So it's also like a nice, Kevin Cash only does this with Evan Longoria. Like, you know, it has to be somebody major for Kevin to actually get out of the dugout and do this. Like, I understand.
Devil's advocate, Kevin Cash is the face of the franchise presently.
God damn. Okay. So,
hey, I'll say this. If Wander Franco wasn't dealing with his off the field issues and he was available, I would say maybe that is a guy of, hey, turning the key from one generation to another generation. That would have been my thought if he was present. But yeah, I would like to hear your explanation as to who that individual should be, if not the face of the franchise, Kevin Cash.
I think, God, we cannot have a
We've
face
done votes at
manager.
polls. It's
No, no.
it's
Does any other team have this issue of like their manager possibly being the most popular name, like of their team? I don't think even the Rockies have that issue, or the Oakland A's. Maybe the Oakland A's. Marc is pretty popular.
yeah, because at least he played in a A's uniform, I guess. Well, so did Cash, but it wasn't like he was memorable playing for
Right.
the
Okay.
Rays.
I think it should have been Randy, Yandy, anybody like that. I even Brendan Lau.
Somebody that actually swings a bat and brings a glove to the ballpark.
I mean, just somebody like, I think that tie-in, that bridge between generations of Rays fans would have been really, really cool. And I think, honestly, it was a missed opportunity. I think it was a missed opportunity for a cool Randy Longo photo. Imagine Longo doing this.
I think that would have been the move there.
with Randy.
Yeah,
Like,
have
that would have
Randy
been
do
really
it.
cool.
Yeah. I guess maybe the reasoning behind it is because Randy is not for long in a Rays uniform, but you might as well try to soak up those moments while you can. He's on the team right now. You're still doing the Randy Land thing and trying to market around him while he's still on the team. Why not utilize that as an opportunity? I'm with you there.
I think they missed a really good opportunity for a tremendous picture with Randy doing that, and Longo, kind of supporting the new Rays by doing something that the new Rays do, which, I think that would have been great. Or Yandy or whatever, flexing with Yandy, like, I don't know, something along those lines where you can bridge generations of Rays fans. Because, looking at those clips, man, it made me feel so melancholic over the weekend. You see 2008 clips and you're like, oh, that was just like yesterday. I was like, a sophomore, junior in high school. Right. And I'm like, oh, wait, that was like 16, 17 years ago. Like, that is crazy. Insane, bro. Yeah. Insane that that's a chunk of time. When you can say 16 years ago and talk about an event and you remember completely how you were, what you felt like, what you thought, that means if you've got some years in you now. And so in this podcast, now we know we have some years on us, maybe not as much as some other folks, but we do have that. And just watching those clips over the weekend made me feel we were so lucky as Rays fans to have a guy like Evan Longoria be the face of the franchise. Absolutely no extracurricular horrible things happening. He was a quiet guy. Yeah, he partied a little bit, but never off the never crazy. He was part of the community. He got duckies going. Like, I think we were so lucky to have a guy like Michael Longoria as Rays fans. And now that you look at this current team, that's missing. You need an Evan Longoria, a 2008 to 2013 Evan Longoria. Or if you wanted to, a 2016 Longoria, like just that guy that you can count on. We counted on Evan Longoria. And guess what? Most of the time, he came through. I'm sorry. There just doesn't seem to be that kind of guy in the 2024 Rays team.
Yeah, he was the total package in terms of being a great, amazing player and also a consummate professional. One of his former teammates, Stephen Vogt, maybe he should have caught the first pitch from Evan Longoria before the game because he played with him. This is what he said, quote, "Longo is one of the best teammates I've ever had. The guy's a pro's pro. The guy's the epitome of what a professional baseball player looks like. The consistency of his work, the way he played the game, the way he attacked, and just the professionalism that he exuded. One of my favorite teammates, great person, good family." And unfortunately, and I think we even knew this before all the crazy news came out about Wander, is he wasn't a great teammate. He was more about himself and doing what he could do to uplift his profile. And, we saw that in the tea leaves over there. And not to mention, Longoria, he's a special, special player. And you mentioned face of the franchise. He was also a quasi face of baseball. He was on the cover of a video game. He was in Gillette commercials. He was really omnipresent, and I think that did a good thing for bringing some awareness to the Rays. And I am really curious to see.
This episode of Locked On Rays is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about, including our rival cities. You're talking Baltimore, New York, Boston. In fact, Kevin, it was just in Boston. He had a great time because guess what? He used booking.com. So they've got everything, people. I mean, from hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. So the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on booking.com on the site or in the booking.com app today. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, supplyhouse.com. It is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. And you can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. You don't really get to do that a lot in 2024, people. So when you get to talk to an actual person on the phone, that is such a lovely thing. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM, joining these pros in the free trade master program and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com.
And learn what his next act is going to be. Is he going to try to suit it up again? If there's a team out there, I mean, I would think that at this point, if nobody signed him, especially after playing in a World Series last year, that, you know, he would at least have gotten a call. But I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't even get that. And I just feel for him because he played so long in the league. First year, you did so much, winning a pennant, being named an all-star and a rookie of the year, and 15, 16 years later, you still don't have that World Series championship to your name. You've played in a couple of World Series, but you don't have the penultimate ring, if you will. So
I'm glad he got the taste of two World Series, though. At least,
right.
Like some guys, this is the one I always go to is Felix Hernandez. Like
Correct.
You can dominate baseball and then you never see the playoffs. Like that's just so rough. But I'm glad that Longo got his two tastes of the World Series. But yeah, what's next for Longo? Who knows? But when you were talking about how he was the consummate professional and the differences between him and maybe what we heard from Wander, it just there's always the when there was a new guy in town, there's a lot of hype and every time you answered the question like, hey, are you prepared to say that Wander is going to be better than Evan? I never said that because I think not only longevity has to be a thing, but he brought relevancy to a whole franchise.
Winning
culture. Like Evan Longoria, somebody has to be the next person that could potentially take Evan Longoria as the greatest Ray ever has to be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. Like that's how good they have to be. I don't want to do like, oh, Brandon Lau or like, no, stop it. Don't be silly. Randy Rosarena, don't be silly. The person who's better than Evan Longoria as the greatest Ray ever will have to be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because Longo got close to getting to that point. I think a couple more solid years and a couple seasons where he didn't suffer injuries, he would be, on the ballot, on the list. But regardless, Longo, the next big moment for him, again, we don't know if he's going to play again, if he decides to go into coaching, maybe some sort of media angle, but as the franchise leader in so many categories, including home runs and RBIs, the minute he says, okay, I'm officially retiring, I'm officially hanging it up, it better be pretty soon after that announcement there is a follow-up announcement that his jersey, his number is being retired, and we can have a whole Rays Hall of Fame ceremony. And maybe it's tied in with that of the Rays have promised him or offered him the ability, hey, once we really celebrate you in perpetuity, you can come back as a team ambassador, player assistant to the front office, some sort of assistant to the front office or the coaching staff, something of that ilk.
Yeah. And we've always talked about veteran leadership. Like he wasn't a loud leader. Like we know this because of everything that that was written at the time when he was at the clubhouse. He wasn't a loud leader, but the way that he went about his business, that's how he showed leadership. And what Stephen Vogt said, like the amount of dedication that he took daily. I mean, I was very happy to see Longo, and I think a lot of Rays fans were happy to see him as well.
And the accountability for other players too. I'd be curious to see how different the shape of this team would be with him on the roster than not on the roster. We remember the legendary moment where he got into a little bit of a tiff with BJ Upton for not hustling on a routine ball in the outfield. So it's little things that make a difference.
Do you think somebody would have said that to Siri? Like Evan Longoria would have said Longo would have said that to Siri, like, hey, knock it off.
Right.
Make
it's got to be a player. It can't just be Kevin Cash saying, hey, we're benching you or we're sending you for a couple games. So, but yeah, good for Longo. That was a great moment there. And the Rays took 2 of 3 from the weekend. We have more to discuss, but first, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, it is the All-Star break, and the Rays have one representative that is making the trip to Arlington, Texas. That is one Isaac Paredes. Hopefully he enjoys the events that transpire and gets a couple innings here and there and can celebrate that moment for his family and the rest of his career. But the question is, was Jason Adam snubbed from the All-Star game? His numbers, not too shabby across the board, especially in comparison to some of the other relievers that were selected for the AL squad. I mean, Clase, look, he's a shoo-in. He might even win the Cy Young as a reliever for all it's said and done. But you could also make somewhat of an argument for why wasn't Jason Adam included as opposed to perhaps a Clay Holmes and the other guys that are on the AL roster, Andres Munoz, Mason Miller, and Kirby Yates. So, Ulises, I ask you, did Adam get jobbed from the 2024 All-Star game?
I think he got overlooked. That's okay, for sure. I think there's also a situation where if your team is just dancing for 500 for almost 100 games, then I don't think even the players themselves, because by the way, let's remember that this wasn't a fan vote. This was like players and coaches voting for, the reserves and the relievers and the pitchers. You get even overlooked by guys in the league. The Rays, they're not in the race for most of the year. So why should they have 2, 3, 4 guys on the team? That doesn't jive well. When you win 96 games in a season, then you can have a Charlie Morton, a Brennan Lau, and Austin Meadows type of situation where you get multiple players like that. Right. But in a season where you're dancing 500 or even below, you get one and be happy with it, unfortunately. But Jason Adam, I mean, you mentioned Clay Holmes there. I mean, with Clay Holmes, the only thing that he gets beat on is the saves. But you go a whip 0.81 versus 1.31. Like, that's ridiculous. He actually has pitched more innings than Clay Holmes, 42 innings to 39, has a better ERA, 277 to 171. I feel like if you were looking at saves, obviously, okay, you need a guy with double-digit saves, but as a better quality reliever, I think Jason Adam has been a better quality reliever than Clay Holmes.
Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. I'll repeat that again. It is LOCKEDONMLB. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Highly recommended. I use it all the time, as does Ulises, to buy all of our Rays and other baseball tickets. No, I agree with you. And I think it's just a mix of a popularity contest and bad timing with how the Rays are playing. Look, if the Rays were 10, 15 games over 500, then maybe Jason Adam does get that call. But saves, that's what people look at with relievers. And when you compare 21 saves for Holmes to Adams 4, heck, it's so crazy too that a guy like Craig Kimbrell got left off the roster. Kenley
Right.
Jansen got left off the roster. There was another guy that I can't think of his name, but the Estevez, he got left off the roster. So that's also interesting in and of itself. But I think it's because Holmes, he plays for the Yankees. The Yankees have been in a heat of it with the Orioles, and Holmes has been an all-star previously. And that's kind of what pushed the needle in his favor versus some of these others. And it's really funny timing because there was a very well documented benches clearing situation between the Orioles and the Yankees because of Holmes' erratic nature and hitting Heston Kjerstad in the head. So that might be a fun all-star moment when some of the Yankees and Orioles players gather in the same dugout there. But yeah, it's tough for Jason Adam. You wish that, what would be the mark of him getting that all-star nod? I think you're on the right track where if he had double-digit saves, if he had 10 saves, 11 saves, 12 saves, that would have pushed him over the edge because the ERA speaks for itself. The WHIP speaks for itself. I know that people sometimes criticize his strikeout numbers, but he has as many strikeouts as any pitch this year. And that's the other thing, too. Compared to some of the other guys that have made the All-Star game this year, I think Adam has the most innings out of all those guys. But again, people don't really look at that. They don't look at the fact that, hey, you kept your team in the game in the 6th or 7th inning and sometimes the 9th inning. They're just looking for that guy who is always getting the final 3 outs. And it's unfortunate for Adams, but at the same time, I've said this within the last couple of weeks, it might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise in the sense of, hey, just like everybody else on the Rays roster, except for Paredes, you get a chance to rest and recover and instead of having to deal with all the travel and media obligations and playing in the game. And it's a whirlwind couple of days for any player. And that's why guys drop out of the All-Star game and say, thanks, but yeah, I've been here half a dozen times. I'm not going this year because I need these 3-4 days just to get my head right and body right for the dog days of summer.
And there's actually like a little bit more of an extra rest as the Rays will actually be playing on Friday.
Right.
So it's like a whole almost 4 days of just, hey, recoup, be with your family, get away from the day-to-dayness of the work. And let's be honest, the Rays finished off in a really good way, winning 2 series against 2 teams that have really good records in the Yankees and the Guardians. That gives you some juice coming into the break. Leave it like that. I obviously would have loved for Jason Adams' first All-Star to be with the Rays. I think he could be a name that gets traded this trade deadline, but so that would have been a really nice getaway, kind of like,
yeah, and that might boost his value too, because one sense I'm thinking, well, he doesn't make the All-Star team. Maybe that helps with his 2025 arbitration figure. But then again, if you do have plans to trade him, having that All-Star next to his name gives you a little extra cachet to, add a little bit of a better quality prospect or whatever it is.
Exactly. But right now, hey, and too bad, but enjoy the 4 days off for everybody. Enjoy your 3 days on, Isak, because you're going to just be all over the place, answering so many questions from so many people in English and in Spanish. So
yes,
just have the best time, Isak. Very good season so far. And the rest of the boys, rest, unplug, chill, do nothing but think about everything but baseball for the next 4 days.
No, I'm with you. And that'll be something to monitor to see if, personally, I wouldn't want to have to fly and then New York. So I would like to just stay in one place for a couple of days, then make the team flight out to my next destination.
Yeah.
All right. Something else we wanted to bring up. There might be beef between our good buddy, Marc Topkin, and one Pete Fairbanks. take a listen for yourself.
And clutch hitting feel like Rays type of wins lately, and specifically today?
Well, I would love if we had a laugher on our end one time, But yeah, wins are wins, Mark. Wins are wins. We don't really care how we get them.
Right.
We just prefer to have them. Would I prefer that you didn't characterize Rays baseball as bad offense? Yes, I would. But
tight games.
I don't think that's what your intention was, Mark. But we could agree to disagree. Yeah, it felt like we had some vintage wins today. We'll say that.
A vintage win. Okay.
Thanks, Pete.
Oh, Marc Topkin back at it again.
Honestly,
typical journalist trying to egg on the jock.
Honestly, I think they both did the right thing.
Yeah.
Look, Pete is backing up his guys. He is a veteran, by the way, for those that are like, oh, he's been with this team
since 2019.
Since 2018. So he's a veteran. He's been there, done that. Like, he's one of those loud voices that people will hear in that clubhouse.
And he's a smart voice too, because that's the other thing too, is, sometimes some of these journalists can kind of use their snide remarks and sarcasm to egg on a player, but Fairbanks will give it right back. This guy took mechanical engineering in college, and he seems to always have a clap back, if you will. So, and
he's a witty guy. So he's not afraid to just be organic and say something right back to him. So good on Pete for doing that. However, great job on Marc. Fantastic job on Marc. Great job, Topper. Why? It's not, I know a lot of people on social media is like, he's always so negative. He never has anything to say good about the team. That's not his job,
right?
As a reporter, as a journalist. On the contrary, he needs to be impartial. He needs to call out things when they go bad, and he needs to call out things when they go well, and clap for them when they go well, and congratulate. Hey, look at what they're doing. That's awesome.
Yes.
Look at all these achievements. Well, but that's wrong. Like, that's actually his job, to be impartial, not to be a spokesperson and say that everything's going well. Look at this, a cheerleader. Like, he didn't sign up for this to be a cheerleader.
No. He doesn't work for MLB.com. He's not Adam Berry. He's not somebody that works on Bally Sports that gets paid by the team. He is an independent journalist. And I know there is partnerships between the Tampa Bay Times and the Rays and so forth, but his job is to call out the stink when it's out there. Yeah.
So honestly, I think Marc did really well. And to your point about how Pete's kind of quick brained and is able to like shoot it off, Marc never said poor offense. Marc said timely hits. Like, there's an actual quote. Marc never said poor offense. And guess what? Sorry, Pete. I've got some Pokemon cards if you want them from Japan. Legit. Yeah. Call me. But if Marc had said this poor offense, is he lying?
No, the numbers speak for themselves. Have we looked at the team OPS and some of the other numbers? I mean, they're lower third, and sometimes lower than that. 25th, 26th in all of baseball. That's bad as far as I'm concerned.
I'm sorry. Like, he wouldn't even be lying if he said poor offense. So again, I think it's good to have these little jabs back and forth between players and reporters. It makes things fun, at least for us fans. To have
somebody's got to ask the tough questions. Somebody's got to be in the room. Yes. If you want to get decent content in a good quote or something to marinate over, for example, why isn't Renee Pinto called up, or why is Alex Jackson still on the roster? I don't know if we answer that. Somebody needs to ask that question, whether it's Topkin, Klosky, or somebody else.
Yeah,
and I think Topkin's going to have to be that guy.
That question needs to be asked, and I know that they don't ask it because it's an uncomfortable situation and all that, but like, that's your job though. Like, I know it's uncomfortable for a fireman to go into a burning building,
right?
But that's their job. Yeah. Like,
the job is not to be a cheerleader 100% of the time. And as we've seen it many times, yes, Topkin has written maybe what some people call hit pieces or negative pieces, but he's using facts and information to back it up. At the same time, he'll do a fluff piece, so to speak, where, again, Evan Longoria making his return to the Trop. There were no bad quotes or bad things to say about Longo in that.
No, it was great. So I think overall, that was a good jab back and forth between Pete and Marc. nothing to do. They're fine. There was just a little jab, but
they're not going to get to fisticuffs.
No. But I think that's good. That's what we need in this market. It's more of that. It's that little more brush. Like players need to be a little bit more honest, and reporters and journalists need to ask the tough questions that might get a response like that.
Right. Yeah. We need somebody needs to prepare a top 10 list of most awkward, uncomfortable moments between players and media types. I remember several years ago there was one between I think C. Trent Rosencrans from the Cincinnati Enquirer and Brandon Phillips. Go look that up if you have chance. And Dusty Baker had to step up in between them. Anyway, we are at the All-Star break. The Rays, for what it's worth, they scored just 2 runs in all those 3 games against the Guardians. Guardians do have a good pitching staff, but the Rays did take 2 of 3 and on a little bit of a roll here, winning 7 of 8 series. So maybe something as we lead into the trade deadline following the All-Star break. So lots to monitor. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you tomorrow.